Welcome to the Pod Slice. In this episode summary of The Problem with Jon Stewart, Jon is joined by his executive producer and showrunner, Brenda Adhikari, senior research producer, Susan Helvenston, and staff writer, Kassan Wilson. Together, they discuss a wide range of topics related to the current state of American society, politics, and international relations. One of the main topics that the team discusses is gun control. Jon notes the lack of curiosity from the news media when it comes to the topic and how they often accept a narrative without questioning it. He also points out the broken conversation that exists around guns in the country, where the only time that progressives and liberals get heated about guns is when they talk about assault weapon bans or great sweeping changes. Brenda Adhikari adds that the show aims to take a different approach to the topic by acknowledging the Second Amendment, while recognizing that loosening restrictions on guns is not going to make the country safer. She hopes that viewers will see that there is a different way of looking at the issue. The team then also addressed the topic of gun laws in America. They pointed out the Iron Pipeline, which is the movement of guns from states with weaker gun laws to those with stronger laws, and the impact it has on crime in cities. For example, guns that show up at crime scenes in New York City often come from states with weaker gun laws such as Florida, Georgia, and South Carolina. The team also discussed how buying a gun is easier than getting a driver's license, and the celebration of guns in America, which they see as a problem. They mentioned the legislation to make the AR-15 the national gun of America, which they believe is a bad idea. The team also touched on the use of dog whistles in politics and how politicians use euphemisms to avoid saying black. They note that this has become normalized and discuss how it makes them feel. Additionally, they talk about the nostalgia that some politicians have for the past and how it often refers to a time when they were children. Jon notes that there is no consistency in the politicians' views, and they often cherry-pick a decade that suits their narrative. On a lighter note, the team discusses a poll that they conducted in their office, which asked the question: if one person had to go end their entire career, who would you choose? The options were Julia Roberts, Tom Hanks, Meryl Streep, and Tom Cruise. The majority of the office chose Julia Roberts, much to Jon's surprise. The conversation then shifted towards the issue of American infrastructure and the country's failure to invest in human capital. Stewart argued that if the United States can invest in defense, it can also invest in building schools, roads, and providing clean water to communities in need. He pointed out that the military-industrial complex and media-industrial complex work hand in glove to create incentives for war, while investments in human capital and infrastructure are often neglected. The conversation touched on the idea that negotiations and diplomacy are often considered weak and that military strength is often prioritized instead. The guests also discussed the fight between Republican and Democratic narratives, which has become more pronounced and divisive in recent years. They drew a parallel between the international fights that the United States is currently engaged in and the domestic conflicts between political factions. There was an agreement that the country is fighting more over political narratives than for the benefit of the American people. The team discussed the recent spy balloon incident in China, where the US blew up a Chinese spy balloon and canceled a trip to China. They talked about the tensions between Russia and Ukraine and the alliances that are being formed in response to them. They mentioned the uncertainty of what happens next and how long these tensions will continue. They also discussed the potential impact of the upcoming presidential election on these tensions. The conversation then turned to the theory that COVID-19 may have been a result of a lab leak at the Wuhan Institute of Virology. The team discussed the Department of Energy's report on the matter and the lack of agreement among government agencies on the theory. They also pointed out the similarities between this theory and one that Jon Stewart himself got heat over in the past. They also stressed the importance of acknowledging different perspectives on issues, such as gun control, and taking a nuanced approach to discussing them. Jon Stewart emphasized the need for informed members of society who can sift through the information presented to them and form their own opinions, rather than blindly accepting the narratives presented by the media and politicians. The team addressed some of the most pressing issues facing American society and the world, including gun control, international tensions, and the spread of disinformation. They provided a nuanced perspective on these topics and stressed the importance of critical thinking and open dialogue in finding solutions to these complex problems. Check out the full podcast by clicking the link in the description below. Thank you for listening to this podcast summary episode of the Pod Slice. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more content like this.